Welcome to Church of Aliens. In this episode, I want to go over some ideas that I've been reading in a book that's really amazing. I recommend it for everybody. It's called The Daemonic Reality by Patrick Harpur. I bought this a few months ago. There wasn't many copies online. I got a hard copy, but it was really cool to be able to read this. There's some, I think there's only really one lecture online by Patrick Harpur and a few interviews, but he's a pretty obscure author. But yeah, he's a really amazing speaker when he talks about daemons and fairies and the supernatural. He explains it in a way that's very clear, but he's very creative in his in how he describes things and explains things for the reader, which I really enjoy. So I really recommend this book to anyone who's interested in these types of topics. But on this episode, I want to talk about how aliens, fairies, and demons could just be a mask for one another. And I'm reminded of a cover of Jacques Vallée. I think it could be Passport to Magonia or a different one, but it's basically a kind of like it could be some sort of entity, but it's holding several masks, and it's a mask with horns as if a demon or grey alien or something else, something for the culture that people are using to see it as. And in a sense, I was reminded of the book, because in this case, a lot of the references and ideas that he's talking about could be just seen as grey aliens from our perspective right now, with all the conversation about UFOs and UAPs as some sort of technical advanced civilization that's trying to probe us or do experiments. But once you read a book like this one, you start to think people had very similar experiences, and they sound almost identical sometimes, but they use different language for it, and it would just be completely different way to understand it. For example, like right now we would say that if a grey abducted you and the experience was you were being operated on, or they were trying to talk to you about genetics and upgrade you, or you were on an advanced ship and you were shown the future of how things could work using your mind. But then someone in the past, like say in the 1500s or even like before that 12th century, think of it like they were taken in a state of ecstasy by some sort of creature that looks like it was covered in light or made of light, and it was talking to you about religious ideas and giving you information on either doctrine or teachings or what to do and what not to do in terms of moral decisions. It can be very similar in a sense, like what the act is. Like if it was on a stage, it's very similar. Like they come to you and wanting to, in a sense, change your beliefs, either about yourself or the world or itself. And this is seen, for example, Patrick Harpur mentions that in most of Europe, for centuries, the idea has always been fairies and goblins and these type of creatures, not really demons in a sense, especially in parts of Northern Ireland or just Ireland and Scotland and Wales. There isn't this idea of a demon coming from hell to attack you or to try and make you sick or anything like that. It's more of a fairy who is benevolent that could help you. It may also try and trick you or do bad things, but it isn't so black and white like it is in Christianity. For example, in Christianity, an angel could never do harm to somebody. If you talk right now, if you ask a Christian if you had experience with an angel, would you think it could hurt you physically, like give you an illness? Of course not. If it did, it would automatically, a pastor wouldn't say, well, that was an angel. They'd say, that was a demon. It was dressed in light, it came from light, but it was really a demon causing you a sickness. Because sicknesses and things of darkness, things that hurt human beings, aren't from God. And in the other sense, an angel is always going to help you, like in the Bible stories, a physical angel appeared and freed a disciple from jail. It'll help you escape from certain situations in the Old Testament. And it'll always have a message, like the messenger angels would always have a message like, this is what the Lord says, this is what you have to do, you have to change something, tell the people this or that. They aren't, in a sense, messing with you, like lying to you or trying to trick you. If it is, it's a demon. So in Christianity, it's very clear. If you experience something like this and it's making you fearful, you know exactly where it's from. In this case, a lot of the demons, in a sense, daemons, sorry, that's mentioned in this book, sometimes you don't know. For example, I like to read one part of the book. Uh, so the poet W. Yeats, he so lays out his experience with the daemon. So he says this: as a poet, W.B. Yeats experienced his demon differently. I think it was Heraclitus who said, "The daemon is our destiny." When I think of life as a struggle with the daemon, who would ever set us to the hardest work among those not impossible? I understand why there is a deep enmity between a man and his destiny, and why a man loves nothing but his destiny. I am persuaded that a daemon delivers and deceives us, and that he wove the netting from the stars and threw the net from his shoulder. And Patrick Harper mentions more about it. He says, here is a picture of the personal daemon, both daunting and beautiful. It is a hard taskmaster, instilling in us the desire to perform the most difficult deeds possible for us, stretching us to the limit. The relationship is thus ambivalent. We feel both enmity and love for our daemon, who we notice both delivers and deceives us. Deceit is one of the daemonic attributes. It is hardest for us to accept. We hear little or nothing of it in relation to guardian angels, for example, but we will be hearing more. So he talks more about those ideas. But in that sense, even Carl Jung mentioned that he felt like he had a daemon speaking to him and guiding him. And I think, if I read this correctly, I think even Plato had a daemon, and all he would say was no. I read it here in this book, but yeah. So the idea is that even a daemon who is assigned to you at birth as a guardian isn't exactly always going to be, in a sense, what the Bible or Christianity would say it is, like always doing good. It never has any deceit or anything. Here, the experience for a lot of people is that you are assigned a daemon, but it can be deceitful and benevolent. It can help you to reach your destiny, or it cannot. And to understand which is which part of your life you're getting sort of messages from, is it the part that's deceit and you have to have wisdom to understand what's going on, or whether you even have any control to change anything, is a very interesting idea. Even if you've read Tom DeLonge's book on chasing shadows, One my favorite part is in one of the characters. I think it's the lady um, who inherited her father's money and business in regards to UFOs. She's trying to uncover her past, and she goes to England, somewhere in the countryside, and she meets this old lady who has paintings of sort of elves and fairies. And as she walks around the house, the elves and fairies start to turn more sinister, having like a very evil look. And then this old lady that used to care for her in her past, when she was younger, sort of turns into this very sinister person, and the whole house turns to light. And it's a very like it's a cool part of the book. I'd love to see it in a movie somehow, but even in that book, I think Tom DeLonge is referencing some of these ideas that Patrick Harpur is talking about. Even at the end of that book, Chasing Shadows, she goes into the forest and sees a ring of mushrooms. Even that's mentioned here in this book with fairies, how very often they are seen um, dancing around mushroom rings and playing instruments, singing and dancing. And if you step into that area, things can go uh, a bit fantastical. So there's a lot of eyewitness accounts and testimonies of this in this book about these type of experiences, which is really cool to read. I haven't really read a book like that where you get these type of stories. Um, but yeah, I was really interested in this idea that how even the idea of a daemon can sort of change into what we now see as demons, because there's a part of them that has deceit. And for these people in the olden times, that was just part of what a daemon was. It wasn't just always good and wanting to help you. There was some deceit in it, and even with fairies, and I think even with um, what we would call the grey aliens. Um, Jim Samivan mentioned that most of the time these experiences, the alien or the entity is lying to people. It, whether it's a very positive experience or not, um, there is always some sort of lie or deceit in what they're saying, but it's also mixed in with truth. So I'm starting to learn that even if you have these type of experience, you do need a community of people or a lot of wisdom to be able to understand what is happening, to interpret the symbols and the language that you're taking into your life, because you could be deceived greatly with these experiences. I mean, you could start a cult if you had these experiences like you had with um, John Smith in the Mormonism. Even then, like there's nuggets of truth that were true, that he was told by these messenger angels. But there's a lot of deceit as well. And what happens usually is, from the pattern, is that these beings get you by yourself, and they tell you this secret, or they give you this prophecy or vision by yourself, and that gives you a lot of power to a community. They see you as almost like a messenger of God, a prophet, like you're the priestly class, and they will follow you. So it's a very powerful position because it can be very abusive. Um, but I thought it was a very fascinating idea of how intertwined daemons, fairies, and aliens can be. And yeah, I recommend this book to anybody. Patrick Harpur, The Daemonic Reality. Let me know what you think about this episode. If you've had any experiences with either daemons, um, fairies, or grey aliens, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you.